Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Don't Tell Me How to Fan. My name's Josh Albrecht, and with me is John Taylor. And you might notice that one of us isn't wearing a shirt. Oh, that's because I said that I didn't think that the Packers were going to beat the 49ers on Sunday, and they did. They whomped them. They beat them 38-10. I was there to see it. I was a lot more warmer in the stands than I am right now in my basement.
Yeah,
I got a hell of a game.
I gotta say, if you've never checked out the YouTube video of this podcast, you should probably do that now.
Yeah, or if you're like, I don't need to see a obese man without a shirt on talking about the teams I love, then stop watching the YouTube and go find it on Apple or Spotify, and you can just listen.
That's true. That's
to
true.
the podcast instead of instead of having to look at me.
Yeah, I have it on good authority. Josh will not be upset if you minimize this internet tab while you listen if you're on YouTube. Yeah,
it's very true. I am still wearing a hat because it was just a shirt. It was just not wearing a shirt. So
yeah, I hope you have pants on.
I do.
Yep. To be determined. Yeah,
I do. Although I'm not going to show you that I do. We're going to stay right here. It's a good. Yeah, it's a good level. Actually,
yeah.
I have one of those desks. I even thought about like, should I go? just have it be my head. No, but this is the point of a bet. You know, like if you're gonna make a bet, make a bet. Totally. So, man, what a game!
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah.
So let me start by saying, this is the first time I had been at Lambeau, since I was no longer working for the radio station. And I didn't know how it was going to go. I was a little like, kind of like visiting a school that maybe like you moved away from and now like you're going back to that school on a day off or something.
Yeah.
Like I knew that there were going to still be people there that I used to hang out with. And it was good. I mean, first of all, like I didn't run into anyone that I wouldn't have wanted to say hi to. But it was overall, it was such a refreshing feeling being there as a fan again.
Oh, like, yeah.
I didn't have to be there 3 hours early. I didn't have to like sit in the cold outside of a trailer and then go into the game and then constantly tweet and worry about social media posts. I could just like enjoy the game. And the fact that it was a good game to enjoy definitely helped. So, that was a big part of it. But yeah, man, Lambeau's still Lambeau. Like this is the first game I've gone to this year, and I just love the fact that there was nothing crazy different, nothing changed. It was like, yep, that's Lambeau Field. Boom.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I got to finally take when I was there in June, I finally got to take the tour and just kind of see everything and get the full rundown. And so, yeah, that's awesome. Couldn't tell you the last game I went to. I think it probably would have been before I moved. Yeah, it was. So it would have been like maybe end of 2013. I might have been around for like a Lions game. I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
Well, we got to change that.
Yeah, I plan on it. I definitely plan on it.
We gotta. We'll have a Don't Tell Me How to Fan tailgate party at a Packer game. God, that'd be awesome.
That'd be great.
And then like maybe like that week, the week before, you could lose a bet, and then you'd have to like go to the game without a shirt on, and then that'd be even better.
Well, I would plan on being there in September, so it'd be pretty reasonable to be shirtless. No. I guess that's not true, right? I guess most people go shirtless in the really cold games to prove a point.
If you didn't have a shirt on when it was warm out, people would be like, "What's wrong with you?"
Yeah,
it's September. What are you trying to prove right now?
I was just looking like a jerk. Yeah.
You'd get a lot of weird looks. I also need to give a shout out to our friend Brian Wolf, who through him and the restaurant that he owns, along with John Roots, Henry Flocks in West Dallas. They had a shuttle, they had a bus that we took, bus trip up to the stadium. First time doing a bus trip to a game as well. Made dealing with traffic like way better. You don't have to, you're just in the bus.
Yeah.
Didn't matter at all. You're just drinking, having fun. So that was awesome. But then you get to the game and it was like right off the bat, it was like, let's go. Like things just seemed to be, and I was ready for it, John. I was ready for all the things that I'd worried about, right, to happen again. First time we're in the red zone. I'm like, here we go. Okay. Can't wait for this to be another disaster. Then they scored. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
All right. I like that. And it wasn't
they sure
fancy.
did.
It wasn't being fancy. It was just getting the ball in the end zone. And I was like, yes, this all the time. I mean, Josh Jacobs.
Well, can we talk about, first
But
of all, that first touchdown, just because you brought it
yeah.
up, that first trip? Man, that was a beautiful screen pass to Tucker Kraft. Just absolutely
Mhm.
beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah, really, really creative play design. That's the kind of stuff I want to see in the red zone. Things that
Yeah.
they know will work in those short yardage situations. Those motions I have no problem with, but when we're just spamming the same end in arounds and we're just kind of, getting lost in the sauce in terms of what we consider creative play calling, maybe at the 40-yard line, it's just different. And we said last episode, it does require its own period, probably its own hour in practice, you know what I mean? Like its own meeting room. I know this for a fact that they do all of that for a reason. So it was definitely great to see, them not only do it one time this red zone trip, but I mean, they went 5 for 5,
Yeah.
5 touchdowns.
Yeah. I mean, it
Great.
was incredible to see. And the atmosphere was, I mean, the fans were on the entire time. Yeah, I did not see a lot of people complaining about, oh, sit down, or, just everyone was in it, which was awesome to see. Obviously, it's easier when the team's playing well to be a
Mhm.
part of it. But to your point, I mean, there were even some delayed handoffs to Jacobs that I love that they kept going back to. That I was like, yes, it's working. You don't have to, like, this is the time where you don't have to be fancy, right? You're on the 40 and you do that, you get 11 yards, and then 3 or 4 plays later, they're going right back to it. Perfect. Yeah, keep feeding them. They had no answer for Jacobs. I mean, I loved seeing that. I didn't have to worry about LaFleur or the play calling the entire time,
Mhm.
which was great.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Josh Jacobs, 106 yards on 26 carries, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah,
I
three
mean,
tutties.
yeah, dude, I still cannot believe there was conversations that Josh Jacobs um, was middling or underperforming. Like coming to a new team after being drafted by the Raiders wasn't going to take time. Just hilarious, hilarious take. He's been absolutely fantastic. You look at the top 3 running backs in the league in terms of total yards, and it's what, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, and Josh Jacobs. I
Yep.
mean, Barkley is right now the odds-on
Oh,
favorite to win MVP. I mean, he's an absolute stud. It's
disgusting.
hilarious that the Giants let him walk. Um, and yeah, I mean, go figure. It's the league does not value running backs the way they should, probably. I think, am I sad that Aaron Jones left? Of course. We talked about that before the Vikings game, but Josh Jacobs is the exact type of running back the Packers needed right now. Somebody
Yeah.
who can eat 75+% of the snaps, somebody who's durable, um, somebody who you can just count on to really just grind out. I mean, he had, I think, 15 broken tackles yesterday,
Yeah.
which leads the league in a single season record for misses forced by the running back. I mean, just absolutely incredible stuff. He's every bit as advertised, and I will say some of his catching out of the backfield has been way more impressive. That was like the big knock. And I understand why you are concerned about that when you're doing an A to B comparison of Aaron Jones and
Josh
Josh
Jacobs.
Jacobs. Because I think Aaron Jones is like in the S tier, the best of the best in terms of receiving out of the backfield. It's like him and Alvin Kamara. That they're some of the best in the NFL, so I understand that. But this is his 7th straight game with 90 plus in all-purpose yards. So he's doing most of it on the ground running, but they are still finding him fun, creative ways to leak him out and get him the ball in space. So yeah, really
Well,
awesome.
and the big conversation that came up that we were talking about in the stands was obviously best case scenario was to have both. We wanted both, right?
Mhm.
I don't know that the argument of Jones over Jacobs was really there a whole lot. It was just you could have had both. We could have had both, so we wanted both.
Sure.
Looking at the backups to Jacobs, though, I mean, they're doing everything you'd want out of
Yeah.
like secondary and third backs, right?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's pretty awesome to see Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks
Mhm.
take advantage of the few opportunities they have, right? Because really they're coming in on downs where it's pretty obvious pass downs. Like Chris Brooks has come in, he's earned any opportunity off the strength of his pass blocking, and I
Yeah.
think it's been great. So to see them both still put up um, numbers, I'm just trying to check the rushing here. Emmanuel Wilson, 9 carries for 41 yards. That's not nothing. I mean, that's like a
No.
pretty healthy um opportunity.
you got to appreciate that.
That's 4.6 average. He was a nice change of pace to Josh Jacobs. It was very obvious that they were not expecting that speed from him. And he led the team in averages per yards, 4.6. Jacobs had 4.1. And then, Chris Brooks had four carries, 11 yards, 2.8. But like I said, the biggest thing is he's there to block. So just kind of like a full complement in terms of the entire running back room. I mean, you really can't ask for much more. I mean, you could ask for Marshawn Lloyd to be healthy, but unfortunately, appendicitis will take somebody out. And so I think this season's probably a wash for him, even if he does come back healthy. We were talking on the bye week how I was hoping that he'd come back and we would have the opportunity to really kind of like sorry, you were like hilariously washed out. And
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I think it's from your shirt.
I'm so pale.
I know.
The camera is like
it's freaking out.
There's just the sun. We're just like, what are we just recording the sun? And I'm like, no, sorry, camera. This is just the color of my body.
Oh, it's awesome. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to derail my own point.
No, it's fine. I hate
needed to be addressed. So
I hate it.
So just really great. I think Lloyd's gonna unfortunately probably, if I were them, I don't know if he gets off the practice squad for the rest of the year. Don't get me wrong, they probably will, but that's just kind of where I'm at. Anything positive he can contribute towards the end of the season is going to be a bonus as opposed to a weapon being added. And I think that's okay because like we said, Josh Jacobs has proven he can handle a workload. And I think that Wilson and Brooks are dynamic and different enough that I think they're really going to be able to do a lot. So, and that's great because you think about a day with Jordan Love, pretty ho-hum, 13 of 23 for 163 yards. Like, it's not the sexiest game by him, but he didn't need to. The running game,
great when you don't need him to.
Yep. So, yeah, what? He still had a quarterback rating of 107. Pretty good. He did take 2 sacks. It's going to happen. I think by and large, the line has really taken care of them in a lot of ways. So it's hard for me to fault him. I'd have to really take a look. I mean, the fact that he was able to re-catch that ball, did you see that in the stands? Like the replay, was that visible? He took a sack where he full blown bobbled the ball 2 or 3 times and he caught it while he was getting tackled to the ground.
Oh, geez, did not see that.
Yeah. Oh. So pretty incredible stuff there. But I thought his balls are looking a lot better. I think there were a few drops. I think they were forcing a little bit, but at the end, specifically if we're talking about that Christian Watson drop, man, that one, it was an absolute killer. I mean, I would say worse than the Vikings one, because at this point he dropped it with all the context. Like before it was a rookie. Hey, it would have been awesome if he did. Maybe that game would have gone differently. But it's like, we keep saying he's our number one. We keep saying if he's healthy, it's like, you got to catch that ball, man. I do. I think so. I mean, most NFL pundits who've like played in the league are like, he's special, and everyone can.
I don't know that I define him as the one still.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's in his own way. I mean, to keep doing stuff like this, and it's going to be harder to prove it. I mean, last week was clearly the game of the year for him. But it's just he's got to pull those balls in, right? Like, you got a guy who's that big and that fast to run past everybody. So if he's going to do it,
I also don't know how I feel about like kind of using a baseball comparison. You remember Yuniesky Betancourt? Remember him? Okay.
Yes, I do remember Yuniesky Betancourt. How could I forget?
He would mess up just a grounder to short all the time. And then it would be like a really tough play. And he would just like find a way to like snatch it and turn this double play, like something crazy. Mm-hmm. You're like, how could he do that, but not catch this super easy, not get this easy grounder? That's how I feel about Christian Watson. Watching him last week, catching these balls, he had no business catching in double, triple coverage, diving 12 feet through the air. I mean, just insane stuff. And then you have this where it's just a long ball that Love puts right in your hands and you can't catch it. I don't like that, man. I got to have confidence that you can come down with those.
Right. Yeah. I mean, drops have been a problem for everybody on the team. And obviously in a situation like that, you really hope that he could pull it in, but he didn't. And then I think the rest, it was the end of the quarter. So I get why they were trying to drive the ball downfield, but
the rest of that drive was all,
couple pretty forced balls that I think ultimately, it's like if Jordan Love throws that pick, one of those balls he threw into double coverage could have been picked, should have been picked, probably.
Should have been picked, yeah.
I get it because you're basically punting at that point. I actually could live with that interception, but it definitely feels a lot better to be on the other side of this game saying Jordan Love finally played a game where he didn't throw an interception.
Yep.
The interception he threw in the end zone, he knew he had a free play. So he was just, you know what I mean? It was pretty obvious, but.
And then on top of that play wasn't even, it was a fouls on
Yeah,
both teams.
Yeah, it was offsetting. Yeah, the Packers, they got to, I mean,
super frustrating. Like, come on, guys.
They got to get reset. I mean, everybody on the team except for Jacobs was on the team last year when they were, and most of them were on the team with Aaron Rodgers, who really excelled, obviously, at getting teams with 12 men on the field. So, it's just attentiveness, I don't know what the situation was there, but specifically that. And they ended up scoring anyway, so no harm, no foul. But, yeah. You want to?
So I want to talk. Let's talk about the defense a little bit. Obviously, last week you had said that even though the Packers won, right? We both in agreement they shouldn't have won. It was just that's being a Bears fan, is you just have to live that life. That the defense was going to be the reason why the Packers don't make a deep run in the playoffs. Seeing this game, has that changed your opinion at all on this defense?
Yes and no, which is not a sexy answer. Yes, in the sense that I think certain things they showed their willingness to address some of the problems or the adversity that this specific defense was going to face. Specifically, they were playing some pretty interesting zone concepts where traditionally they would have been in man. I think they were doing some more in like simulated pressures. I need to like rewatch the game to get a full grasp on what exactly the line was doing, but they seem to be generating enough. I mean, ultimately they did what they needed to, right? They made Allen uncomfortable, the 49ers quarterback, and they made opportunistic plays. I mean, I said last week specifically, turnovers was buoying an average defense. And what do you know? Turnovers buoyed an average defense. So I think they're still pretty average, but if they can continue to find ways to force turnovers, that is an elite trait of an average defense. And that should equate to wins either way. I was reading up a stat, or I heard it somewhere, that the Packers are a top 10 defense when they're not having to defend against a turnover. So as long as the Packers offense isn't creating turnovers, we've been able to play top 10 style defense. And that makes sense. You pin them back on the 20, you believe in your guys, you think that you can cut off the field in a way. So that does match the eye test, but I still don't think there's enough pressure. I mean, I think Rashawn Gary is still like over pursuing. That's a part that I don't love. It's not like he's getting close. Guys are just letting him take all that power that he's rushing with and just running right past them, And so, I mean, that's still a problem. The LVN forced fumble, that was awesome, but it's like it's 2 or 3 big plays this year for him, still waiting for Kenny Clark to get a sack this season, so it's just a lot of stuff where, the line, hopefully as they continue to figure out their personnel now that, Preston Smith is no longer on the team, maybe they unlock some configurations, some concepts, maybe they can drill some things with players who are just a little more willing to play a 4-3, I don't know, but I wouldn't say this game makes me feel a ton better, because I just think they leaned into what they've been doing as opposed to failing to do the things they were good at. I mean, hats off to Quay Walker. I think he played. He went from one of his worst. I mean, you can say that, but I don't like him. I don't think he should be extended. I think this was a great game from him. I'm not, as much as I want to jeer somebody, I'm never gonna not give them roses when they deserve it. And I think today was a game where Quay had a huge bounce back. I have a feeling he'd be lying if he said he didn't hear all the discourse around him and his lack of play. Maybe it's because Edgerrin Cooper wasn't there, but he stepped up big time. I mean, the linebackers were not a liability, especially when you talk about going against Deebo Samuel and George Kittle, who are liable to eat in the middle of the field, but yeah.
All right. I mean, we made it 20 minutes in. Yeah. For the most part, I think I'd be pretty positive about the game and everything. The defense did nothing for me. The defense, the line specifically, I still saw nothing. And against a Niners team that's at full strength, I think they get embarrassed. There still was way too much time that a backup QB had. I mean, Hafley should have had that. That should have been the game plan. Was they have an inexperienced quarterback in, pressure him, make him have to force throws because he's not a starting QB. He's not a guy that's going to be able to make incredible throws while having hands in his face within 2 seconds. And it's not what happened. He still had way too much time to do things. I'm not saying that the defense played bad. I just wanted pressure, and I still didn't get pressure. And it still makes me worried that the D line has nothing to give. And
let me ask you this real quick. Do you think they send more pressure if Jair Alexander plays?
Yeah, I do.
I think so too. I mean, I think,
but also is that where we're at? Where the guy that's injured half the games is, if he's not on the field, then then we have no pressure. Like that's just it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a great spot to be. Clearly, I mean, I think we talked about it last week, and the more I've stewed on it, I think failing to address the cornerback room or take the amount of gambles on the different types of players they had in it is a problem. But I'm just saying, I think really the game plan was you have a dynamic player in Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Juwan Jennings. Like these are people who have shown that they can be threats, especially in the West Coast offense that Shanahan runs. They get open quickly and then they can punish you for that. So I just think was the game plan, and we'll never know this, but if the game plan was we're gonna put a lid on the defense or can't go over the top of us and then play sound, contain on the line and just force Braylon Allen to beat you. If that's or Brandon Allen rather, if that's the plan, then I can live with that, And I think there was an element of that. I mean, they sent pressure when it made sense to make pressure. I'm not in love with it. It's not the type of defense I want to see per se, but dude, they won 38-10.
Right.
You can't argue with the results, even if it's not producing exactly the way you want it to. They got a forced fumble off of Brandon Allen. They got a peanut punch from Keyshawn, like a pretty impressive chase down to punch that ball out, so, and then obviously X's pick was, he was overhanging right where he should be. So it's just a lot of like, I don't know. Are they in that position if they're sending cover zero blitzes? I don't know.
Saying, imagine where this defense is if Kenny Clark or Rashawn Gary can get to the quarterback at any point.
I know. And that's something
the pieces are there.
Yeah.
It's just, I just don't see it changing. And so I think that I'm not saying Hafley's doing a bad job. I think that he's making dinner out of the ingredients he has.
Yeah.
I'm just saying
chicken salad out of chicken is
right. I'm just saying I want a fillet.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have the ingredients to make that meal, and that's unfortunate. And I think that it is going to be a hindrance for this team down the road. Okay, one of the big things that was talked about, and I think it was Jacobs. It was either Jacobs or Nixon. I think it was Jacobs after the game. Talked about the people saying that, well, the Niners had all these guys out, and so can you really count this as like a true and tried, win?
Yeah. It's Keyshawn Nixon, by the way.
It was Nixon. Okay.
Yes, it was.
So your thoughts on all of this as we're analyzing, how much are you taking this to heart in comparison or just because there were so many injuries for the Niners?
Yeah. Just for the full quote, via his locker room interview, it's the NFL. It's not an excuse. We didn't have our quarterback. We won 3 games. So we want to hear that. We came to play. They should have came to play. How much do I take it with a grain of salt that they were missing their quarterback and their best defensive player? A somewhat grain of salt. And the only reason I say that is because great teams or good teams beat bad teams. And in this iteration of the 49ers with the personnel that they had, that's a bad football team. I will say it seemed like by a lot of reports, it just seemed like the 49ers are over the season. Like it feels like they're already packing it in, they with a loss,
which is crazy, by the way, because with the loss, they're 1 game back of the Seahawks. I mean, literally it's 6-5 with the Seahawks, 6-5 with the Cardinals, 5-6 with the Rams, 5-6 with the Niners. So the division is still so in play.
Yeah, depending on
have that
what
mentality.
what playoff predictor you use. I mean, that loss dropped them to under 15% chance to make the playoffs. Just given the fact that they lost to the Seahawks and I think the Cardinals, and they're more than one game technically because of all these tiebreakers. So,
Sure.
and the wild cards are coming out of the wild cards are going to be the Vikings, Commanders, and the Packers. It just depends on what order they are. I don't see how the Commanders fall off, but point being, you can tell the energy's off. I'm hearing a lot of stuff. I was listening to a couple like national football podcasts today. A lot of conversation around like they've been to the Super Bowl 3 times in 4 years, and it's just like long seasons. And the Super Bowl hangover thing is like really real. Obviously,
Mhm,
people talk about
mhm.
like when you lose, but they've just played a lot of games more than the average team. You know, their season extended all the way to February a lot, and some teams are packing it in this time. There are teams that are their season's already over. You look at the Giants,
Yeah.
the Jets, so it's like, so, yeah, I think the Packers did what they needed to do. They showed that they can do these things, and that's all you can ask. I mean, I don't know what more the Packers. You can look at individualistic stats, but at the end of the day, they beat the NFC, the reigning NFC champions,
Mhm.
38-10. Um, and that's awesome. So, I take it with somewhat of a grain of salt, but really it's just they did what they had to do. And that's a big deal. The Packers are, they could have came out flat or funky after the Bears game. Nobody probably wanted to win that way. I mean, it's cool that it happened, but they want to beat the division rival handedly, and that didn't happen. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, here was my take on it was they won 38-10. You win 38-10 over a team with injuries. You win 38-24 without, you know, like
Mhm.
if they would have beaten this team 17-10,
Yeah.
I would have said, yeah, that might have been a lot closer game if Purdy and Bosa are in. But 38-10, no. That's too significant of a difference to me to factor in injuries.
Yep.
I mean, the Packers did everything they were supposed to. They crushed them. They crushed a team with injuries. When you crush a team with injuries, more than likely you would have beaten that team at full strength because you, like you said, you did everything you were supposed to do. They did everything they were supposed to do. So I'm with Keyshawn in the fact that no, that's not an excuse. They whooped their butts, man.
They whooped their butts. The
It's
butts got whooped.
yeah, they whooped them. They
Yeah.
whooped them. It's over. So love the game.
Yeah. I'm trying to think
Loved
if there's any other. I thought this was interesting. Other
yeah,
things
tell
floating
me.
around, which is pretty funny. Do you realize that the NFC, the offensive player of the year and the defensive player of the year could just both be former Giants that they let walk? You want to talk about like organizational
Jeez.
failure? It's like Barkley and Xavier McKinney are probably odds-on favorites to win both of those positions at this point, and they both just walked because of Daniel Jones' contract, who they cut because of that injury clause. Just absolutely absurd ineptitude. So Packers fans, if you ever get crossed that we don't make a trade before trade deadline or we don't draft a wide receiver, just remember we don't
Yeah,
have incompetent owners forcing teams to do
true.
bad things,
It's true.
Um,
I did
sometimes
want
that
to
gets lost.
I did want to say, there were conversations going around about Goody and draft picks though, and just
Yeah.
looking at the play of some people. Do you have any thoughts on that with, just seeing where like Van Ness is and Gary and
Yeah.
Stokes, and there's been a lot of beat writers and X handles out there saying, like, hey, as the Packers keep winning, the
Right.
underperformers, just to point out, have all been first round picks.
Yeah, I listen, you want your first round picks to hit, right? Clearly.
Right.
But to the success that the second and fourth round, I mean third round,
Is our
laughably was always
downfall.
like
Yeah.
cursed, but this year's been great. And I think last year Sean Ryan is proving to be, or 2 years ago, Sean Ryan proving to be worth it. So I just think you have to look at his total body of work. There's so much made of the first round guys that you forget that the rosters are typically made up of not first round players, and it's figuring out ways to coach and develop. And I think that's something Goody has a really great knack for tools. I mean, the RAS, there's a reason why they have like athletic thresholds and they refuse to go under. Obviously that's a big one, but I think Gary has hit. I think he's underperforming, but he's not a bust. You can't say it's a bad draft pick. He earned a massive contract. So he's not a bust in terms of what a draft is. Eric Stokes, I think, was always kind of a betting on upside. It's a shame it didn't pan out, but it was the end of the first round. Like truly the end of the first round. Like all the time you go, well, that's technically a second. So it's like we can't cherry pick where these players are taking or the context of their football career has taken them to color our conversations. Like so many organizations would love to have the scouting talent,
of course,
the draft pedigree, the draft philosophy, that was like instilled by Ron Wolf and then sharpened by Ted Thompson, rest in peace. And now that's obviously like Goody's just taken that ball and kind of really took that philosophy and applied it to the modern NFL. So it's just like, I have no complaints about his picks. I think I said last week,
what
I
about
wish maybe
Bullard as a second round pick in this last draft. You happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he's going to be a great safety.
And Lloyd was our 3rd round pick this year.
Right.
So,
we'll see. I mean, the jury's still out, right? I mean, Devontae Adams didn't become a first ballot Hall of Famer until the 4th year. So there's just a lot of like king making and downfall wishing on some of these newer guys. Like I wish Lucas Van Ness was further along. Like I said last week, when he was the 4th edge rush, I was less concerned about it. When he found his way to the 3rd, I was like, well, I wish they would have done something different to not make that be the case. It's all situational. You want to draft a guy and develop him, next year, if Lucas Van Ness doesn't take a step forward, that's a problem. That's where I go.
Yeah. Give him a little bit more time.
Yeah,
sure.
Because this is his 2nd year.
All right. Let's talk about Gary then. Where's your clock on Rashawn Gary?
Where's my clock? I don't know. I don't have he's underperforming. I'm not happy with his performance. Have
you ever been truly happy with his performance? Like what year were you like last year, were you really like look out NFL?
I mean, he got enough to get the contract. I don't know. I guess my thought about Rashawn Gary was that he was always ascending. He was getting better year over year. So it's something to be excited about,
And then he got paid.
This is the first year where obviously he's taken a step back in production and just overall performance. And it doesn't feel good. I don't have the answer. Do I want the Packers to bail on him? No, but they got to figure out a way to get him more productive. They have to, because QB rushes, that's a great question. I mean, I'd have to really look into how they use him as opposed to, are they running stunts with him? Are they switching? Are they pin and pulling? What are they doing with him to try to get him open looks? Or are they saying, we think you're an elite rusher in this league, so just go after the quarterback? Because if that's the case, maybe that's not helping. It's kind of like in basketball. Do we think our superstar, do we think Giannis can do everything? Sure, he can most times, but at some point you need to make the game a little easier for him so that talent can just flourish. And I don't feel like Gary's flourishing in this new scheme right now.
No,
I don't think Kenny Clark is either. And I just don't think it's, these guys are too talented to be underproducing. So either it's really bad luck or there's something going on. But I don't think it's just that they're bad. I don't think either one of them. I mean, Gary's straight up way too young to be bad. And I think, it just needs to get figured out. I don't love it. I mean, you're not going to hear me just like berate Gary, but I just think he's got to be better. If if he was impacting the quarterback the way we expected we would have no complaints about this defensive line. It starts with him, and Clark is, Kenny's always been somebody who eats a ton of double blocked. He gets double blocked a lot.
Yep.
So he was never been like this, like Quentin Williams interior disruptor. He's not like a penetrating defensive tackle, but what he is hard to block. And so you send a lot of resources to make sure he doesn't affect the game. So But he has always been able to produce even when that was happening. So, yeah, I don't know,
man.
I don't know.
But it is something they got to get figured out.
Yeah.
All right, it's time for Josh's looking ahead to the rest of the regular season and what the hell is going to happen with the NFC North segment. We'll work out later on a different title for the segment. So, Packers have the Dolphins coming to Lambeau on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's supposed to snow in the forecast,
short
right?
Week, I believe so. Yep, short week. I'm assuming that Dobbs is not going to play on a short week, and he was ruled out with a concussion, I believe.
Is it formally a concussion?
Well,
I didn't know.
That's what they said during the game. They put on the little board. They said concussion out.
Okay, then yeah.
So
yeah,
I'm assuming they're going to go without Dobbs, which is unfortunate because Dobbs shined in that game on Sunday. Dolphins, I think, have been doing pretty well the last few games. Any concerns, or big concerns, I guess I should say, with the Dolphins coming to Lambeau on Thanksgiving? Dolphins beat the Raiders 34-19. Game before that, 23-15 over the Rams. Oh, I'm sorry, they beat the Patriots yesterday.
Yeah,
34-15.
yeah. I mean, the Patriots are bad. They're like really, really bad. So
I mean, Raiders aren't great either. So
no, so you take that with a grain of salt. They're playing really well though. Tua, since coming back from injury, has been playing incredible. I think his deep ball is back. He looks great throwing the deep ball. That was what made the Dolphins so scary. But right now he's in rhythm. They're playing the scheme really well. Jonnu Smith has been a revelation. Their tight end. So Devon Achane's really great. But the thing is like this team isn't better in any of the ways than the Lions that we just played, the Texans, certain so we'll see. They're historically bad at playing outdoors, so that favors the Packers. It's going to be cold, it's going to be snowy. They're a team from Florida, so and also Matt LaFleur is undefeated in holiday games. I don't know if you saw that fun stat.
I didn't, but I'm going to knock on all the wood.
Yeah, right, I'm going to knock on that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, they beat the Browns on Christmas, the Dolphins on Christmas, Vikings on New Year's Day, the Lions on Thanksgiving, and the Vikings last year 33-10. So, there's some good. And it's Toyotathon month for Jordan Love, which is a hilarious thing about him turning it on. So, long story short, they're a very good football team. I don't think they're as good as the Packers, and I think I think the elements are going to make this really challenging for.
I agree.
So.
And let's not look past the fact that the Packers are 8-3. If it wasn't for the fact that the Lions and the Vikings were also having such good years, we would be super duper happy with 8-3 at this point. I mean, I remember McCarthy, like when McCarthy was here, it was like 10 wins, as long as we get 10 wins. And then they added the game. But even then, I was like, yeah, usually if you got 10 wins, you're in the playoffs, 11 for sure. Yeah. And that's three more wins. And so half of the games remaining. If the Packers can win, I think that this is one that they should win.
Yeah.
Looking at the rest of the schedule for the Packers, I do worry a little bit about the fact that then the next week they have the Lions. I still don't think that they're going to get past the Lions, but who the hell knows?
Yeah.
And then the game that scares me the most is the Vikings in Minnesota, because that is a game that they need to win. That is a must win in my mind.
Yeah.
Right. They need that game in a lot of ways. And we never play well in Minnesota. We don't. I've seen games there. I hate playing there. It sucks. So I take those two games out, though, the Lions and the Vikings, and I think that there's no reason why they don't win the other four.
You think we go 13-4 on the season?
I think we go 13 and
12-5. Yeah. Wait, you said two more losses. It's 13-5.
Yes.
12-5. It's 12-5. Sorry. Yeah.
17. We go through this every week. 17 games. It just gets us.
Yeah, you're topless. I'm distracted. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It's that bright light on your face.
Yeah. I don't know. What was my bold take? I thought we would go 8-1. after the bye. Isn't that
You
what
did.
I
You
said?
said we were gonna lose one game,
And I said I thought it was going to be the Lions.
and you thought it was gonna be the Lions.
I still say that. Do I think we could beat the Lions? Absolutely. Apparently they're pretty injured, right? Didn't Montgomery go out? There's a couple other guys on the team that I didn't hear
Yeah.
much in the way of like long-term injuries, but it matters, man. You know, it's like they're on a short week this week. I do like that we're playing the Lions on the same like modified schedule. That feels pretty good to me. If we
Yeah.
would have been well, the Lions always play on Thanksgiving, so there's no way this would have happened. But if this would have been a thing where we were coming at a rest disadvantage, I would have been pretty upset. But the Lions are at home, we're at home, then we go to Detroit, which is fine. So I don't know,
the
man.
Packers have played okay in Detroit. Detroit is
Yeah.
not the same as Minnesota.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
even when it seems like the Packers shouldn't win those games,
Mhm.
in the past they've found ways. So
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
mean, the thing is, the Lions. This is a good week for the Lions to have a bad week because they're going against the Bears, and so I think that the Lions beat up can still get past the Bears.
Yeah.
Relatively.
yeah.
easy.
I mean, dude, I legit think maybe the Lions drop one more game this season, and it could be us or you know what I mean. I would
think
not be
the
surprised
Bills,
if
they got to play the Bills. I think the Bills could do something to them.
Hopefully. I mean, dude, listen, I'm watching all the games hoping they all lose. You know, at this point, I'm
Yeah,
full
of
blown.
course.
I was rooting for the Cowboys yesterday because they were playing the Commanders. You know, it's like I'm trying to make sure we get to the 5th seed.
Yeah.
Which the Vikings are making it challenging. But I don't know, man. The Bears played the Packers tough. The Bears played the Vikings tough. The Bears might play the Lions tough. I don't know.
Well, they didn't play. Well, at least for the majority of the game, they didn't play the Vikings tough. They did come back to force OT in that game, but then they still lost, which sucked. That would have been
I just
a huge
think
win.
I know. I just think that's just this Bears team. I think like if they're gonna win games, it's gonna be just hanging around long enough to do something dynamic. Like Caleb Williams, there was it a 4th down where he like scrambled out and was able to like really avoid a pretty gimme sack on some bad pass protection. So I mean he definitely flashed yesterday, even more so than he did against the Packers. And so you know, you never know. You might catch the Lions flat-footed if they feel like they don't have to take it seriously. But I just don't think that's the case. Like the Lions absolutely believe that this year is theirs. They've earned it, and I mean they're definitely playing like it. Like Dan Campbell has these guys playing in a way that, like,
the Lions are the best team, in my opinion, in the NFL.
entire. Yeah, I agree. I don't know how you
but not just NFC. I like them against the Chiefs. I like them against the Eagles. I like them against anybody. If they're at full strength, they're killers. The Vikings, on the other hand, are the team that I'm looking at. All right, Lions are too far ahead. Packers, focus on the Vikings. I understand it's 2 games, but I'm saying, like, in general, they're that much better of a team. So I'm looking at the Vikings, how we can get past them. The Vikings have won, especially the last few weeks. They're finding ways to win games that they really should lose. Right? Like they should have lost to the Jags. Like the Jags were ahead the majority of that game. And then they just fell apart because they're the Jags and they suck. And then the Bears. Like the Bears had multiple opportunities to win that game. And then they killed the 2. They have the Cardinals. Vikings have the Cardinals on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Cardinals will be looking for a big bounce back. The Cardinals have been playing really well. I think that was a game yesterday.
And they're in a tight race. They're not out of it by any means.
That was a clear-cut case of like, dude, playing your divisional opponents is tough. There's just so much more tape. There's such a higher degree of familiarity. It's like a lot of the little things that you can like exploit against uncommon opponents becomes things that your opponent figures out how to exploit against you. You know, you do your most amount of tape on these guys. So it's the same reason why whenever there's a divisional game, I think, oh, you never know. Like, do I think the Lions win on Thanksgiving Day? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Could there be a chance where the Bears do something fluky and they beat them? Yeah. I mean, you could say the same thing. The Packers were not supposed to beat the Lions last year on Thanksgiving or whenever that Thursday night, and they crushed them. So
yeah,
you just never know.
Game was over at halftime.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the beauty of the NFL is you just never know.
Yeah. But I agree. I think the Seahawks are playing very well right now.
Yep.
I think they're the number 1 team in the NFC West right now, off of like the strength of like tiebreakers.
Well, I think they're ahead, but I think they have the same record as the Cardinals.
Yeah, they have the tiebreaker because they just beat them to get into that position. So, but they beat the 49ers the week before. So, you know, they're definitely they're definitely formidable. I think the Packers, that you want to talk about like trap games. That's one where it's like, you
Yeah.
know, the
They gotta be
Seahawks
locked
might
in the rest of the way.
for sure. And I think they know that. I think you could. I think the way they played yesterday showed that the way down on penalties. You know, what I mean, the 49ers
Yeah,
all of a
that was
sudden,
nice.
so that was great. I mean, the two defensive offsides like Lucas Van Ness and JJ Enigbare, pretty bad, pretty obviously lined up in the wrong spot. So just kind of some
Yeah.
boneheaded stuff they can clean up. But the other three penalties I can live with. It's really refreshing being on the other side of watching a flag be thrown on every other play.
And not having to be your team.
Yeah, it's really
You
nice.
know, one of the biggest takeaways from this game was there was no shooting yourself in the foot. Nothing that was so directly impactful of a mistake in this game for the Packers. That's
Right.
huge. No interception, no fumble, no huge penalty, no boneheaded penalties that were super impactful. More of that, please. That
Yeah.
was the stuff that we talked about with LaFleur of you have to have your team ready to go. I don't know necessarily if that's because of, as we said, going up against the Niners, not at full strength. I don't think so. Because bonehead penalties, usually it doesn't matter who you're playing. Right? That's just mental mistakes and you not
Right.
finding a way to not make them. So I was happy with that. I don't want to be overconfident in this game against Miami because it is on a short week, but I do think they win the game. And I think it's closer. I'm going to go 28-20.
28-20 Packers.
Yes.
Okay. What do I think? I think you're probably pretty close. I think this game is closer. But if there really is snow on the ground, I think that really does affect the Dolphins more than we want to believe it will. I really do.
I don't know that. I don't buy into that anymore. I don't buy into like, oh, you're coming to Lambeau to
Mhm.
play the Packers in the snow. I just don't think the Packers are that team.
Hmm.
I don't think the Packers are a team that right now, like how many times has this Packers team played in ice cold snow games? Like I don't look at that as a true advantage.
I just mean like separate of like this weird, like the Packers played. However, I'm not saying Packers. I'm truly just looking at it like a team that lives in a place that in the wintertime is 70 plus degrees outside.
Sure.
Going to a place where it's cold enough to snow at night, it matters. The majority of the NFL players that come out are play in the South their entire life. So I just mean like in the same way when the Packers go down to play the Dolphins in September and all of our guys start cramping up and we're losing guys for drives, like there is a learning curve that I think the Packers will be able to exploit. So I get they're not this like the Packers don't lose at home in cold weather games team anymore. They're not. Aaron Rodgers' tail end of that career, it's been gone for years. So I would love to see it come back. I mean, if the Packers want to win out at home for the rest of the season, please do. Let's bring it back. I got no complaints about taking advantage of the fact that it's one of the coldest places to play in the entire country. But I just think specifically with this Dolphins team, they rely on a lot of speed, and if there's snow on the ground, that affects your ability to do that.
Sure.
So I think here's the difference, though. I think the Packers clear 28 points, no problem. I think the Packers win 31-24. That's my score, 31-24.
Okay. So you think so still close.
I think it'll be close, but what I mean is I think it's actually going to be like 31-14-17, and they're going to get just like a prevent touchdown at the end because it doesn't really matter type thing.
I just don't see the defense. I don't know. I think against a better team, I'm still expecting the offense to do things.
Yeah.
But I'm expecting the defense to be a little bit more embarrassed than they were against a beat up Niners team.
Yeah.
With
I don't know.
QB. And especially, I mean, who would be coming back? What would I be looking for from this defense that would make me think, oh, the defense is gonna be even better this week? Like I don't see it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like I've seen what this defense can be. What is this defense going to be against a better team?
Yeah.
They're not. There's going to be less opportunities. And so the offense, it'll be close, but I think the offense is firing right now. They're doing so well. Jacobs is killing it. Love has been playing well, knock on wood. That just keep that going. and I think it'll be closer, but I think the Packers still come out ahead.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we win. So
I like
good.
that.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say about the Bucks?
Yeah, they're back to playing great basketball.
Okay.
You know? So, what's their record right now? They're one game behind 500, but they're the 5th seed in the East because the East is terrible.
Yeah.
I think you can point to the fact that alternating between Andre Jackson Jr. and AJ Green as the starting two has been working great. I think it's really unlocked the defense early in games, so they're not fighting so hard tooth and nail to come back. It seems like Gary Trent Jr., by all accounts, has been putting a ton of work in outside of games. There's constantly like video circulating of him, like as soon as the game's over, getting more shots up. So he's definitely, the attitude in the locker room seems right. It's like at one point we were also 2-7, 3-8, same as the 76ers. And there was not leaks about how there were team meetings and people calling each other rats and claiming that people were soft or not taking it seriously. So I definitely think the season's not lost. Us getting the 1 seed, us looking like these dominant juggernauts, looking like a dominant juggernaut is lost, but that doesn't mean this team can't figure out a way to play competitive basketball. I mean, they played a reeling but still good Indiana Pacers team. They played a pretty good defensive like Houston Rockets team. And I think they handled them. It's not like it was close. The Bucks are, dude, NBA Cup watch. We could do that. They're number one by like a wide margin.
They got the Heat tomorrow.
Yeah. And if they win that game, if they win tomorrow, they're in. There's no team, it's just like the record will be too good. So I just think they're clicking. I think there's a lot of reports right now about, well, what do you think of the reports of like Giannis and Dame seem to be like?
Yeah, I think this was a little bit of a wake-up call. I think that this got under the skin of 2 elite players. I think that it was a little bit of, they were going through their own struggles as a team, right? It's not just them two. This is an NBA Jam. It's not just the 2 of them meshing together. It's the whole team, although that is the biggest part of it. And I think the idea of players not hearing the pundits and seeing the social media reactions, and I think that's all bull. And I think that they do see that, and I think they heard the noise, and I think that it pissed them off, and I think it made them realize, like, hey, F that. Like, they think that we can't play together? No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And so I think that it got them on the right path, that maybe they needed a little kick in the ass. And truthfully, I think that they both had the ability to play well, but time's up on figuring it out. Figure it out now. Can you 2 play together or not? And I think that they are receiving that message and proving that they can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're finally starting to feel the effects of Doc. Doc brought in Greg Buckner in the offseason, and he's the assistant coach, one of the assistant coaches. And he basically was like, I'm like basically ceding all defensive responsibilities to him. It's going to be his defense. He's going to be in charge of getting these guys, and I think there was a point where Chris Middleton, they were saying like around preseason, like, yeah, we haven't even installed any defensive things yet because we're waiting on Chris to come back. Clearly Chris is not back, and it's not as so they're working on something, and I think we're now starting to feel the effects. I think we're seeing fast hands, active hands. Like I said, I think the youth and athleticism between Ajax and also AJ Green is showing to be a very competent defensive player. He's bigger than I think people realize, and it's a classic thing, dude. Like NBA dudes love going at like the pale white guy. That's just true. How many stories do you have to hear about it? And it's like, he's absolutely holding up on his own. He's strong at the point of defense. I think he's fine. He's good, which is good. Like he's not great. I'm not standing here or sitting here saying that he's an elite defensive player, but you can't have somebody like Damian Lillard, a defensive liability. You can't have somebody alongside of him who is equally a defensive liability. And I think neither Andre Jackson Jr. or AJ Green are doing that right now. And you're kind of seeing what this defense can do when they have guards who can actually lock down the perimeter. And then I think Giannis has been way better about staying active in defensive sets, and I think that's been paying off. And I mean, all this talk about like trading Brook Lopez is still a joke. He's still an elite. As long as Brook Lopez can stand and play basketball, he will be an elite rim protector, and he is doing that right now. So I just think it took time, and who would have thought this? Playing good basketball also would result in wins. All of a sudden they're passing better, they're shooting better, things are falling. The NBA game is such a rhythm, and I just think they never got into rhythm, and it feels like they are right now. They're 7-3 at home, 1-6 on the road. So they definitely need to figure out that disparity. But I mean, now that the playoff tournament
they're on the right
is what
trajectory.
it is, absolutely.
Just now's the time to keep it going.
Yep.
Just don't stop right now. You figured something out, build on it. Don't have this be the plateau of getting better. Right? That's not good enough. Yeah. All right. Before we end, how do you love this hat? God, I love this hat. I got this hat at Lambeau.
Cool.
I want to focus on it because it's clothing that I'm wearing.
Nice.
The clothing that I'm not.
Sure.
But love it. I'm not gonna lie. Usually Lambeau does not have the best hat selection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or they got a lot of dad hats like you're wearing. A lot of floppy, floppy 47s.
There ain't nothing floppy about this hat, bud.
That is a 100% floppy ass hat. You take it off, and it is flopping.
Yeah,
it's not structured.
Okay? I got a shallow crown. Okay, I can't wear hats like
I'm not mad at you for wearing it. Okay,
don't yell at me.
I have to wear these hats because I have a fat face, and so if I wear the hat like you're wearing, the hat ends before my face does, and then my face keeps going. It makes it look bad.
Makes it look like you're wearing a little swim cap.
Correct. All right. So I'm jealous that you can wear the floppy dad hat, but that's usually what they have. They had this hat, and I was like, oh, banger. Picked it up immediately. I loved it. I loved my time at the game. It was great. If there was going to be one game I got to this year, I'm glad it was that one. We'll see what the rest of the season holds, but nothing on the schedule for the rest of the season of me making a trip up.
Yeah, there's a small chance I might make my way north to the Link. Nope, that's the Philadelphia Eagles. What do they call the 12th man? Whatever they call. I forget what.
Seattle.
Seattle Stadium. What is it? Is it like the Century Link?
I don't know.
Let me look what the stadium is called real quick.
That's fine. We'll just pause the podcast to figure it out.
Yeah. What? Lumen Field? Did they change it?
No way.
They had to have changed it.
That sucks. That's it? That's the name of it?
Yeah. Did they had to have changed that recently. Seattle Stadium name change? Question mark?
Get out of here. That's an awful name.
Yes, it was. It was CenturyLink Field.
Yes.
Oh, it's been Lumen Field since 2020. Yeah, you can tell. I live in the Northwest. I do not care about the Seahawks. I don't.
Yeah, clearly.
I could not care less.
It's been 4 years.
Yeah.
It's been almost half a decade of big Lumen Field. Neither of us had any clue.
Stupid. It's kind of like how I still refer to
go to the
Loom Stadium.
Go to the Loom.
Fruit of the Loom, baby. I still call the 49er Stadium Candlestick.
Yeah, everyone
I think changed in like the late 90s. It has been so long. It wasn't that long ago, but it's been a long time. So
no, that's fine. We'll go to that game. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's just expensive. So it's hard. It's hard,
Let's do
I don't have a hookup.
Let's do a GoFundMe. If you would like to send John to the Seattle game, comment below. We'll put John's Venmo in the description, and you can Venmo him to get him to the game. How much?
I'll buy a floppy hat. I don't know. A ticket's gonna be like $200. I could swing it. It's really not that bad.
Come on, $200. Come on.
I just, I really like watching football at home. That's something.
Well, too damn bad. You're gonna go to this game. You're gonna represent. You're gonna shout. Woo. And then the Packers are gonna win. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out when is that game actually. Sorry,
It's in 3 weeks.
Oh, it's in 3. What date is that?
That's December 15th.
Shit, that might be hard. Okay,
Why?
We'll see. Because I have a life, Josh. Because I got improv stuff to do.
John.
I'm teaching.
This isn't about life. This is sports.
Sports are life, dude.
This is what we care about. Is sports.
Yep.
And I will tell you how to fan. Go to that damn game.
Interesting.
Don't tell me how to fan.
Oh,
I'll tell you how to fan.
Okay. You better be careful, because if you keep talking to me, I'm going to tell the romantic story about how we first started dating.
The what?
I don't know. This is a shot at your podcast with your wife. That you
Oh
started.
God, yeah, that was the whole thing.
It was lovely. I listened to it.
Did you really?
I did.
My wife Julie. Now we're just off on a tangent. My wife
That's
Julie
okay.
was like, so all you're doing is these podcasts with your friends, and I was like, yep. And she was like, why don't we do one? And I literally was laughing. And she was like, what? You don't want to do a podcast with me? I said, no, you don't want to do a podcast with me.
Yeah.
And she was like, I do. It's probably the only chance I'd ever have to actually talk to you. And I went, fine. And I think it was a little bit of us just going back and forth on who's gonna like a game of chicken.
Mm-hmm.
And she's so stubborn that we actually did it. So you can watch that. Not Done Yet Media. It's on the same page. It's probably like 3 videos below this one.
Yeah.
Johnny, love you. Can't believe
Love you
I did
too,
this
buddy.
without a shirt on, but a bet is a bet. Happy that it came with a win, not a loss. And now Thanksgiving. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank
Hope
you.
you enjoy watching the Packers come away with a win. Hopefully.
That's right.
At Lambeau in a snowy game against Miami.
Yeah. Programming note: episode's going to come out. We're recording next Monday.
Yes. So
okay. Yeah.
So I will actually be out of town when we usually record. So that is going to be a Tuesday.
That's right.
Tuesday recording, and
Cool.
and then it'll be out Tuesday night.
Great. So yeah, hopefully we'll catch a good. We'll be able to talk about a pretty easy Packers win. Hopefully, maybe dive into a little more Buck stuff since we'll be a little further away from the game. So we can talk a little bit more about that and then get ready for the Lions game because that'll be
Big
2 days
showdown.
away. At that point, it'll only be 2 days away.
So. I know. Be there before you know it. All right. Thanks, pal. Appreciate you. Appreciate everyone who watched today's episode. For more information or for more videos, go scroll down. If you missed some of those, they'll be there. They're still semi-relevant. You can watch those. Appreciate you, and make sure to tune in next time because we are not done yet.
Happy holidays.